Things are really not looking good for Justin Trudeau and the misfit band of liberals, which is why you've seen just so much controversy in the news, with Justin Trudeau's liberal cabinet shuffle, even Trudeau's divorce, that going public. The timing of that was very weird, followed by Trudeau's family trip to Tofino, and it keeps piling on and on and on. And that's why you're seeing a massive change in the polls. For the first time in either Canadian history or a very long time, it's projected that the Conservative Party of Canada is going to get a majority government. Not only are they going to be elected, not only is Pierre Poilievre going to be the next Prime Minister of Canada, almost with 99.9% certainty, but they'll actually get a majority government, which means that all the bills that they're trying to pass and fixing the country and the government itself will be a lot easier to do. Welcome back to another video, everybody. Before we get into it, I want to encourage you to give a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Really helps grow the channel. We're en route to 400,000 Canadian subscribers, which would be 1% of Canada's population. We're fighting YouTube suppression, government suppression, Trudeau's own personal algorithm. Trudeau has a YouTube channel. He's trying to grow that. We're doing a great job of not giving him the views and keeping it out of the mainstream media and with content creators and independent journalists and things like that. So subscribe, turn the post notifications on so you add an extra layer of insurance so you be notified of videos. And without further ado, let's get into this video. So here we go. Trudeau recently shuffled cabinet to hold 3-day retreat in PEI. Justin Trudeau is asked if this is a bad sign for the Liberals, if the sign of the reshuffling and everything that's going on, if it actually means that, hey, you're in trouble. And let's take a look at Justin Trudeau's response.
Is today's changes an admission that things have not gone well for your government in 2023?
On the contrary, one of the things that we've seen is even as we're seeing record job creations and inflation drop down into the range set by the Bank of Canada, we need to continue to put our very best foot forward and work even harder to deliver for Canadians. And having a renewed team with a range of new voices and new skills and experience, new challenges for our strongest ministers to be able to step up and meet this consequential moment in the lives of Canadians, in the things happening around the world that Canadians are so well positioned to meet and thrive through. I'm excited about this team, and I'm excited about the work we're going to be able to do together.
And as you're about to see, it's not going well. It's not going well for Trudeau. We're going to take a quick look at some of the polls, and it just contradicts everything that Trudeau just said in that video. They are down really bad according to 338 polling. It's projected that the Conservative Party of Canada will have around 169 seats, which is the median between, as a very low end, 135, which is almost as high as the Liberals' high-end projection, and as high as 201 seats. Every time you check the seat projections, the Conservatives are going up and up and up, and the Liberals are going down and down. It was only a few months ago that the Conservatives were hovering at a high end of 174, and the Liberals were kind of on track to get 130 seats, 140 or 50 seats. And as you can see, they're projected to get 111 seats. I just don't think it's going to work out the way that they want to. And a lot of people actually agree that, well, this seems to be kind of the end of times for Justin Trudeau. Right here, Corey Morgan on Twitter says Trudeau will step down as Prime Minister within months. I echo T. Wilson, Ottawa, Tracy Wilson, who is staff at CCFR, in predicting it coming. His party is tanking in the polls. His bills and initiatives have been catastrophes, from the attempted gun grab to his attempted shakedown of social media platforms. An inquiry into CCP interference will happen eventually. Internal strife has to be building up as MPs fear for their jobs. He doesn't know how to fix his mess, and while I don't think it was planned for this purpose by any means, his separation from Sophie gives him an out. He will say it is unfair to both Canadians and his family as he is distracted by pending divorce, thus will step down and focus on his kids. As he vacates his seat, the party will be on. And this is actually something I've openly talked about. Pretty much all of these points, I've known that the polls, they're tanking in the polls. It has not worked the gun grab in his favor. And with social media fighting back, with Meta saying, yeah, no, we're not giving you an exclusive deal, get out of here. That was a really big move by Meta. And it's kind of set the precedent for all of the countries around the world realizing, hey, you can't ask anything from these social media companies and get it. They are well within their rights to say, no, we're not going to do that. That's totalitarianism. No, we're not giving you exclusive deals to, expedite your propaganda, which is actually a really good thing that they are pushing back, as we've kind of known major tech companies to be a little wishy-washy when it comes to this stuff. An inquiry into CCP interference will happen eventually. I think that when question period resumes, the Conservative Party of Canada has an immense amount of ammunition. They can start to get malicious if they choose with the divorce, but I don't know if they will touch that because it's not very political to be discussing those things, at least in person. And I haven't really seen any members of parliament bring this up on social media. So I think that we can just remove that from the deck of cards, but it will 100% be talked about for the Liberal cabinet shuffle. Pierre is probably going to wave across the room and say, bye, Marco. Hope you're counting down the days. Or he might even bring to the table how many days Marco and Omar Algebra and all these other Liberals that are kind of getting shuffled out of the cabinet have left. And I think that that's going to stir up a lot of emotions. And it's going to be pretty awesome to see, House of Commons back in and just the bloodbath that Canadian politics has turned into. Internal strife has to be building up as MPs fear for their jobs. I mean, no doubt. The Liberals have had it quite easy for a really long time. They've really just been able to putter around and, say mis and disinformation. Just because you're saying those things doesn't make it true. Just because you're trying to play the victim doesn't mean that that's actually the case. And we've seen a lot more objectivity, and people are realizing, and socially as well, the culture is realizing, hey, this is starting to get a little bit out of hand. So there's a lot of pushback from the culture, a lot of pushback within politics, within the Senate, and it's quite great to see. And so Liberals should fear their jobs. All politicians should fear for their jobs. You're not immune to repercussions as an elected member of parliament. Even as a prime minister, you don't get to take bribes from, I don't know, Aga Khan and go on these private trips without there being repercussions. You're held to a higher standard, which means that you're actually less immune than what you should be, significantly less. Little mistakes should actually have larger consequences within this sphere because they make such massive decisions for not only general public, but decisions that affect the world. Like, I don't know, all the money that they're kind of giving away to Ukraine instead of focusing on our own stuff. There's just so many things that are happening here in Canada that are, now they're saying it's time that you should fear your job. And the fact that they've shuffled out a few members of the Liberal cabinet, I think is really good. Now, this is something that I haven't actually thought of, that he doesn't know how to fix this mess. And it wasn't planned, but his separation with Sophie gives him an out. That's a really hot take, and I kind of want to focus a little bit on that in upcoming videos because it is true, and I'm actually surprised I didn't think about it that way. It gives Justin Trudeau an out, and he has been spending more time with his kids, at least publicly. I don't think we've ever really seen him take photos or have like his own alone time with his children on social media. And immediately after the divorce or separation was announced, you see Justin Trudeau taking his son to Barbie and his daughter to Oppenheimer, whatever the movie is called. So weird reversal of, conservative values, I suppose, on the movies. But nonetheless, it's something you haven't really seen with Justin Trudeau. So the fact that he does have an out, right? And it's something that you can talk smack about. You can say, oh, well, you're just using this as an excuse. But I mean, it does look good for him in the sense that it doesn't look like he's abandoning Canadians, because all the Liberals will be empathetic to him and saying, oh, well, that's right. Family value, family man. That's the Liberal way, and yada, yada, yada. Whatever they want to say about him, he'll leave the cabinet within the liberal ideology of a somewhat good reputation that he's, giving up his position of power for family values. I'm not saying that he's looking good to everybody else. To us, we still don't like Justin Trudeau, nor will we ever like him. He's pretty scummy. But to the liberals and to his little echo chamber, he'll look really good. So that is a very interesting take, and I'm a little surprised that I haven't come across that on my own. But now we're going to pivot outside of that a little bit, and we're going to take a look at some other issues happening here in Canada. And one of the major ones is immigration. Canada's goal by the year 2100, so in 77 years or 67 years, whatever the math leads to 2100, Canada wants to have 100 million people living here, which is insane because it feels like just last week we had 30 or 35 million. Now we're up to 40 million, or probably at 40.1 million by now, or 40.2 million. So Canada is really trying to grow at an expedited rate where we don't have the infrastructure to do so. So why are we talking about this? Well, how does that affect people? It affects people because it leaves people vulnerable, where there's too many people coming in and not enough houses or jobs to accommodate all of the newfound immigration. The most important thing, though, is the housing. Where are you going to put the people? When we already live in a housing crisis situation and you're bringing in way more people and we're not building faster than we're housing people, people are left to be on the streets. Alternative styles, or, like 30 people in a small 4-bedroom or 3-bedroom house, right? Like there's so many problems here in Canada, and you're seeing a lot of testimonies online. So I found this on Twitter from Mr. War Campaign. Old stock Canadian descendants have to compete with third worlders who will work for next to nothing in the worst conditions in a race to the bottom. At the same time, immigrants who were sold a lie are waking up to the Canadian nightmare. So this is a screenshot from Reddit under Canadian housing. Deteriorating mental health due to Canadian housing market. I am an immigrant who had dreams of living an okay life in Canada. A house, a car, a job that affords a middle-class life. It seems like only the rich have a middle-class life now here. Owning a house seems like a far-fetched dream. Housing prices tripling in 8 years, people not being able to buy a house despite good income. I could never imagine this about Canada. A decent Toyota costs a fortune. All these are absurd prices. Rent is skyrocketing. Grocery items are shrinking, yet getting more expensive. Every day I feel myself being further depressed, numb, and raged. I can't sleep properly nowadays. Anyone else feeling their mental health deteriorating from the nosedive of standard of living here in Canada? And all of these points are very much true, and it's not just affecting immigrants. It's affecting pretty much everybody who's living here. The cost of cars has skyrocketed. Just a few years ago, a truck, you could buy a truck, like a new truck, for $70,000, $80,000, and now truck prices are $120,000, $150,000. Used cars, like 10-year-old cars, are actually profitable right now. You can buy or sell your 2010 Honda Civic for, pretty much what you paid for it, if not at a profit. It's very, very strange how, the cost of used cars is somewhat of an appreciating asset now since the coup. It's totally bizarre. Rent is unregulated pretty much now. You can just charge rent, and increasing rent is obviously regulated, but setting the prices is unregulated. And anyone who wants to buy a mortgage or can afford a mortgage versus rent, the bank says, no, you can't afford $2,000 a month for a mortgage payment because, well, your income doesn't suit that, but then they're forced to go and rent a place for $2,500 a month. And the bank or no one is there to say, well, that doesn't make sense. You have to lower the rate or find somewhere else to live. So it's a very, very weird, place that we are in history. Housing prices have skyrocketed as well, and interest rates being on the rise is something that I see a bit of the older generation talk about, saying, well, back in my day, right, housing interest rates for mortgages were 14 to 18%, but the price of a house was equivalent to a bag of cashews at the grocery store right now. It wasn't very much compared to what it is. And I understand that high interest rates means you're paying way more towards interest and way less towards principal. But housing prices now are a fortune and interest rates are on the rise, which means people just can't even afford to buy a house and they're not being built fast enough. And so I feel very bad for the person who posted this in the subreddit, because it's actually something that unfortunately most Canadians can kind of relate to. And that's a very sad state here in Canada. As a new father, I want the best for the future of my country and the next generation. And I mean, it's hard to do that. It seems like there's not really like, how are the housing prices going to come down? How are the mortgage rates going to come down? It's going to take years and years and years. And it's hard to imagine a world where we go back to, you could buy a nice, 3-bedroom or 2-bedroom family home for $350,000 just on the outskirts of a major city. It just seems unachievable at this point. And that's a very sad reality. And we're going to kind of end this off here with a video from Pierre Poilievre, who says, want more homes for students and seniors, require cities approve massive apartments next to all federally funded transit stations. Let's see what the man, the myth, the legend, the next Prime Minister of Canada himself has to say.
So a quick story from my youth. When I was a university student, I decided to move in with my dad, who lived on the top floor of that little apartment over there. Now, there were 2 reasons for that. 1, my dad's a great guy, but 2, right over there, that is Heritage Station. It connects the LRT in Calgary to the north end of the city. So I was able to come dashing out of that apartment, down the stairs, out the door, run down this path as the bells of the coming train were ringing, jump on the train, open up my books, study last minute for my exams as I traveled all the way across town to university. And what's the moral of the story? We need to approve high-density apartments around every future transit station, something we don't do now. There are many stations across the country that took millions of dollars to build, but there's very little housing around them, even though there's available land. And that means that we're not getting the maximum potential out of the massive expense that we put into those transit stations. The federal government funds transit. My common sense plan is to use that funding as leverage. I'm going to say to the big city mayors, if you want federal money for your transit station, you have to approve high-density apartments all around them so that seniors and students don't even need to afford a car. The Calgary City Hall approved this one over here as well. More housing over here. Folks are able to come down the elevator, get onto this little walkover, and go over to the station in order to get on the train and head wherever they are going. It is common sense. Let's unlock the potential of our land to get more value. We need to do something. Housing costs have doubled under 8 years of Justin Trudeau. The average mortgage has doubled. The average rent has doubled. The average needed down payment has doubled. In fact, housing costs in Canada are almost double what they are in the United States after 8 years of Trudeau, even though the Americans have 10 times the people on a much smaller landmass. Doesn't make sense. This is a government-induced problem, and I'm going to come forward with this common sense solution. More apartments next to transit stations so that countless other young people can hit their alarm clock in the morning, come storming down their stairs, run out, jump on the train, and get that essay in just in time to beat the deadline and bring home an A for their proud parents. I'd love to keep talking, but I got a train to catch.
Very relatable, and it's awesome because I myself used to live near a subway station and bus terminal in Toronto, and so I can relate to that. And it just seems like the pricing for these things just aren't affordable to the average family person. But that's where we're going to end the video today. I'd love to know if you have any comments, questions, or concerns about any of the topics that I've covered in this video. Drop them down below, and I will love to read through them once the video is posted. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to give a like and subscribe if you haven't already yet. Consider turning the post notifications on so it adds an extra layer of insurance for you to actually be notified of videos that get posted, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.